Hey, so this is Dave with Full Send Hunting, back again in association with Archery Idaho. We're going to do a simple, quick video on how to put a blazer fletching on. So nothing fancy, we just got a simple Bitzenberger jig. We got it set up for basically a 2-degree offset straight fletch. Nothing fancy. Once you've got your arrows clean, usually use a little bit of alcohol after you've gotten all the old fletching off. So just wipe that down. Pretty simple, really. I mean, fletching's more or less just taking your time, right? It's nothing fancy. A few simple things you're going to need. You're going to need some alcohol, your veins, and also your glue and maybe a paper towel or something. So we'll get into other veins and stuff down the road. You got, you know, primer pens and things like that. This is literally just a basic, simple fletching that you basically, when you buy an arrow, that's what they look like.
So here's the thing with fletching. I think people overthink it too much. It's really not that hard of a process. You have a little button here on the arrow. I don't know if you can see it real well on this particular nock. Usually it's a little divot or a button or something. So on your basic 3 fletch jig, you have some sort of way to tell. So this is a little flat spot, okay? You have 3 settings, just 1, 2, 3, right? So on this particular one, you want that up. And what that's going to allow us to do is when we line this up in the notch there, that's going to tell us where to put our cock vein. So that's our starting point. So then when you go do arrows down the road, if you're missing your cock vein, you can line that button up by twisting your nock, and you'll know exactly where to put that fletch without messing anything up. So this is just a real simple basic video on, you know, repairing an arrow once you've got it cleaned, putting a fletching on at camp or whatever you want to do. So first thing you want to make sure is you always want to make sure that this is completely seated in your jig. If it's not, what'll happen is you'll have one arrow that's sitting here and one that starts here, and then, you know, and it might not affect flight too much, but everything affects flight enough that it can drive you nuts. So pretty simple. We're just gonna do a simple offset straight fletch. 2 degree is what I got it set at right now. We usually start right here on this second mark. Now each shop's a little different. They might go to that one or that one or that one. Usually it's about within 1 inch to 1.5 inches of the back of the arrows where you want that vein sitting. So I always start it right there, about like that. So what a lot of guys do when they're first starting out, and I mean even I did, every tech did in the world, I mean nobody ever starts at the top, so is they put too much glue on. Okay, so you got to find that what works for you. Also, if you can keep your glue tip clean, that'll help. Make sure you use lots of alcohol, and you know, even soap and water is better than nothing, just to clean up that arrow shaft. Okay, before you start fletching. Basically, this is all I do. I just do a couple of drops. All right. Pretty light. There's a little much right there in my opinion, so we'll have to clean that up, but pretty simple. I mean, it's one thing I relate fletching jigs to is woodworking. So you get a lot of guys that just freaking wrench on this thing. I mean, just hold it down really hard. If you got a lot of glue in there, you know, and you don't have it spaced properly or whatever, you can get some air pockets in there, and you can actually starve that joint, in my opinion, just like you would if you were gluing a couple of wood panels together. I always take a little bit of paper towel and just go like that. So about 7 to 8 seconds is what I usually hold it down for before I go on to my next one. Depends on the glue you're using. Each glue is a little different. Somebody didn't clean off the tip very well last time. And you turn it to the next spot. Now, if you had any glue sitting right here, you could take this towel and just go right alongside it like that. I mean, you can do this without making a mess and have fletchings that are going to stick. Now, on the off chance that you get a fletching that just, it doesn't matter whether your tech did it, whether you do it, it just will not stick to that arrow. It could very well just be the glue chemicals. Either A, the glue sat too long, or you're not getting the right chemical reaction, or bottom line, there's just a lot of carbon dust on there from the arrow itself when it was getting cleaned. And if that's the case, you will have arrows that just can't hold a fletching, you know. So you got to make sure that you clean your arrow really, really well. That's the biggest step to making fletchings stick. Now, these are simple blazers. We're not doing anything fancy. There is some other vanes out there that require the use of primer pens. So, and that's just another way to help kind of clean the vane before you adhese it to the shaft itself. So, but I mean, pretty much, I mean, you can tell there's not a lot of glue there. I'm not starving the joint. There's not a lot of air, and my other side's coming out clean. So now I hardly ever lose fletchings. Every now and then I get one arrow, but for the most part, I mean, they all do their job really well. I'll show you a little trick too that'll help with longevity on your longevity on, yeah, can't even figure out what I'm trying to say here. Basically on making your arrows stick better to the shaft. I'll show you a little extra protection. Some shops do it, some don't. We recommend it. Basically, it's real simple. It's called tips and tails. It's the best way to remember it. Now, these arrows, yeah, I mean, you can shoot probably within 5-10 minutes with this particular glue, and chances are these fletchings aren't going to come off. But if you got a really hot bow, and I mean, that thing's cooking arrows and it's sending, or you got really loose targets and it's sending those arrows straight through the fletching, it's not horrible to have a little extra protection on those vanes to help them from pulling out when you pull those arrows out. So that's pretty much it. I mean, there's hardly any glue at all other than under those vanes. You just got to wipe off the excess, you know. And I mean, a guy can do, once he's done it a few times, he can do a fletching relatively quick. So it's not a big deal. Always set this back to there so you start. So now say this cut off, right, and you just wanted to do that one fletching. Well, then what you do is you take your button, because your nock's obviously going to be turned like that when it's sitting in the bow. So now you take your button and you line it up with this square starting point right here, and that'll put you right back to where your cock vane's supposed to go. So pretty simple, pretty easy. Here's tips and tails. So 24-hour platinum fletch tight. This stuff is amazing. The biggest thing with it is it just takes a little longer to dry. Not a big deal. If you really care anyways, you know, you probably shouldn't shoot your arrows for a day. Just that simple. That's all it is right there. That stupid little dot, believe it or not, will help these arrows stick in targets so much better and not rip these fletchings off. Sorry, I don't know how close I am to that camera. And you notice there's a little bit extra right there. Well, the nice thing about this stuff is it doesn't really bulk up. If you did it with this, you get like real hard, plasticky, bulky, you know, clumps of glue basically, and that can, you know, mess with your flight and stuff like that. So pretty simple, really. I mean, we'll get into fletching like helicals and true helicals and left and right and all that good stuff down the road. I know there's a million videos out there on how to fletch an arrow. Hopefully this helps. Maybe you picked up something you didn't pick up on the last video. Maybe you didn't. Doesn't matter. We're just keeping it basic and simple for the people that are still learning or want to learn new. And I mean, set these things down for 24 hours and you're good to go. So
just wanted to go over real basic fletching, just to help you do it without making a mess. If you need to fix an arrow at camp, or you know, don't want to pay the local shop guy to fix one vein or two or three or whatever it is, or you just want to get into doing it yourself down the road. So just keep a heads up and keep shooting your arrows every day and destroying veins so you can learn how to do more. So thanks guys, appreciate it, and we'll see you down the road.